Hello, everyone. I'm Martina, and today we're diving into one of the greatest unsolved mysteries of the 20th century. It wasn't a murder, it wasn't a robbery, it wasn't even a crime, yet it captivated millions of people, dominated newspaper headlines around the world, involved hundreds of police officers, inspired wild theories, and remains a source of fascination nearly a century later. The mystery centered on a woman who would eventually become the best-selling novelist in history. A writer whose stories revolved around disappearances, secrets, deception, and brilliant investigations. But in December of 1926, Agatha Christie found herself at the center of a real-life mystery far stranger than anything she had ever written. For 11 days, one of Britain's most famous authors simply vanished. No one knew where she was, no one knew if she was alive, and no one could explain what had happened. Even today, historians, psychologists, biographers, and mystery enthusiasts continue debating the truth behind those extraordinary 11 days. To understand how this astonishing story unfolded, we need to go back to the winter of 1926. At the time, Agatha Christie was already becoming a well-known name in British literature. Her detective novels had attracted attention, and readers were beginning to recognize her remarkable talent for constructing puzzles and mysteries. Yet despite her growing professional success, her personal life was falling apart. The years leading up to her disappearance had been incredibly difficult. In 1926, Christie suffered a devastating emotional blow when her beloved mother died. The loss affected her deeply. Friends later described her as heartbroken and emotionally exhausted. Grief consumed much of her energy and attention. At the same time, serious problems were developing within her marriage. Her husband, Colonel Archibald Christie, often known as Archie, had become increasingly distant. Eventually, he admitted something that would shatter Agatha's world. He was having an affair. Not only was he involved with another woman, but he wanted to leave the marriage entirely. He requested a divorce. The combination of grief, emotional exhaustion, and marital betrayal created a perfect storm of personal distress. Then came the argument. On December 3rd, 1926, Agatha and Archie reportedly had a heated confrontation at their home in Berkshire, England. The marriage had reached a breaking point. What happened during that conversation remains unclear. What is clear is that afterward, everything changed. Later that evening, Archie left the house. Sometime during the night, Agatha Christie also departed. The next morning, police discovered something alarming. Her car, a Morris Cowley Roadster, had been abandoned near Newlands Corner, a scenic area in Surrey. The vehicle appeared deserted. Its headlights were still on. Inside were personal belongings, a fur coat, a suitcase packed with clothes. The scene immediately raised concerns. Had there been an accident? Had she been kidnapped? Had she taken her own life? Nobody knew. As news spread, concern rapidly escalated into a national obsession. Remember, this wasn't just an ordinary missing person case. Agatha Christie was already a recognizable public figure. Her disappearance instantly attracted enormous media attention. Newspapers across Britain published updates daily. Then international media joined the story. Headlines appeared throughout Europe and America. Suddenly, the disappearance of a mystery writer had become the world's biggest mystery. The search effort expanded dramatically. Police launched a massive investigation. Hundreds of officers became involved. Volunteers poured into the countryside. More than 15,000 people reportedly participated in search efforts. The scale was extraordinary. Entire areas were combed for clues. Search teams explored fields, forests, and waterways. Divers searched bodies of water. Aircraft participated in the hunt. For 1926, the operation was remarkably extensive. Yet despite all these efforts, Agatha Christie seemed to have vanished without leaving a trace. As days passed, public fascination intensified. Speculation exploded. Every newspaper had a theory. Every journalist had an opinion. Every citizen seemed to have a guess. Some believed she had suffered a mental breakdown. Others feared she had become the victim of foul play. Still others suspected she had orchestrated her own disappearance. The mystery became even more extraordinary when several famous figures became involved. Among them was Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, creator of Sherlock Holmes. Imagine that for a moment. The creator of the world's most famous fictional detective was attempting to solve the disappearance of the world's most famous mystery writer. Doyle reportedly took one of Christie's gloves to a spiritual medium in hopes of obtaining supernatural guidance regarding her location. Whether one believes in such methods or not, the incident demonstrates just how captivated the public had become. Another celebrated mystery writer, Dorothy L. Sayers, also followed the case closely. The disappearance had effectively become the literary world's greatest real-life mystery. Days continued passing, still no answers, no confirmed sightings, no explanation, no Agatha Christie. Then, 11 days after her disappearance began, everything changed. On December 15th, 1926, staff at a hotel in Harrogate, Yorkshire, recognized their guest from newspaper photographs. The woman staying there was Agatha Christie. The revelation stunned the nation. She had been living at the Swan Hydropathic Hotel, now known as the Old Swan Hotel. The location was more than 200 miles from her home. Even more astonishing was the name under which she had checked in, Teresa Neal. That surname immediately caught attention. Neal happened to be the last name of the woman involved with her husband, his mistress. The coincidence seemed almost impossible to ignore. Was it really a coincidence, or was it a deliberate message? The discovery only deepened the mystery. When Archie Christie arrived at the hotel, reports suggested Agatha appeared calm and composed. Yet something about the situation remained deeply puzzling. She offered no public explanation, no detailed account, no dramatic confession, no comprehensive interview. Incredibly, she would maintain that silence for the rest of her life, and that silence is precisely why historians continue debating the case today. Without a definitive explanation from Christie herself, theories multiplied. The first and perhaps most widely accepted theory involves psychological trauma. According to this explanation, Christie experienced a fugue state. A fugue state is a rare psychological condition often triggered by extreme stress or emotional trauma. During such episodes, individuals may temporarily lose aspects of their memory and identity. They can travel, adopt new behaviors, and sometimes appear relatively normal despite experiencing profound psychological disruption. Supporters of this theory point to several factors: the recent death of her mother, the collapse of her marriage, her husband's affair, the divorce request, the overwhelming emotional pressure she faced. Taken together, these events may have pushed her beyond her psychological limits. Some modern historians, including notable biographers and researchers, believe this explanation fits the available evidence reasonably well. Lucy Worsley, among others, has explored the possibility that Christie genuinely experienced a dissociative episode brought on by extraordinary emotional distress. If true, it would mean Christie herself may not have fully understood what happened during those 11 days. But not everyone accepts this interpretation. Another theory suggests the disappearance was intentional. Critics at the time argued that Christie may have staged the entire event. Some believed she wanted revenge. Her husband had humiliated her publicly through infidelity. Perhaps she wanted to embarrass him in return. After all, while the entire nation searched for Agatha Christie, Archie found himself under intense public scrutiny. Many newspapers portrayed him negatively. Public sympathy overwhelmingly favored the missing wife. If revenge was the goal, the strategy certainly succeeded. Others proposed a different motive: publicity. At the time, Christie was an emerging author. The disappearance generated headlines around the globe. Her name became internationally recognized. Some skeptics argued that no publicity campaign could have been more effective. However, supporters of Christie strongly reject this theory. They note that the emotional cost was enormous. Her reputation suffered, her family endured distress, and there is little evidence suggesting she planned such an elaborate scheme merely to sell books. Another possibility lies somewhere between the two extremes. Some historians believe Christie may have left intentionally but later experienced genuine psychological distress. In this interpretation, the disappearance began as an emotional reaction but evolved into something more complicated. Human behavior, after all, rarely fits neatly into simple categories. People experiencing grief and betrayal do not always make rational decisions. Emotions can lead to actions that are difficult to explain even afterward. Perhaps that complexity is why the mystery remains so compelling. Unlike many historical puzzles, there is no single piece of evidence capable of resolving the debate. No hidden diary has emerged. No secret confession has been discovered. No definitive witness account has surfaced. The truth remains frustratingly elusive. What happened after the disappearance is easier to document. Agatha Christie eventually divorced Archie. In time, she rebuilt her life. She traveled extensively. She remarried. Her second marriage proved much happier and more stable. Most importantly, her literary career flourished beyond anyone's imagination. She went on to write some of the most beloved mysteries ever published. Characters like Hercule Poirot and Miss Marple became cultural icons. Her books sold hundreds of millions of copies worldwide. She became one of the most successful authors in human history. Yet, despite all those accomplishments, questions about December 1926 never disappeared. Even today, visitors travel to Harrogate hoping to walk the same halls where Christie stayed during her mysterious absence. Books continue to be written about the case. Documentaries revisit the evidence. Historians debate the possibilities. And readers remain fascinated by the irony that a master of mystery created the greatest mystery of her own life. Perhaps that's why this story endures. It's not merely about a missing person. It's about grief. It's about heartbreak. It's about human psychology. It's about the limits of what we can truly know about another person's inner world. And ultimately, it's about unanswered questions. Agatha Christie spent her career constructing mysteries and revealing solutions. But in this one extraordinary case, she left no final chapter. No detective arrived to explain everything. No brilliant monologue revealed the truth. No confession tied together all the loose ends. Instead, she left behind an enduring puzzle that continues captivating the world nearly 100 years later. And perhaps that is the most Agatha Christie ending imaginable. Thank you for joining me today. I'm Martina, and if you enjoy fascinating historical mysteries, unsolved stories, and remarkable true events from the past, be sure to subscribe. Until next time, stay curious, and I'll see you in the next video.